Hi, lovely to see you all, and thanks for having me. And I'm gonna introduce into a little kind of niche part of the music recording industry at the moment, still, about mixing techniques, in the box mixing techniques for classical music broadcast. My focus actually is showing my individual workflow, actually, just like my workflow. So criticize whatever you want to criticize, just like my workflow, and I respect every other workflows. And I'm working with dedicated merging technologies, hardware and software, which is like Pyramix by Merging Technologies, and their ADDA converters, Horos and Anubis. And Anubis is the monitor controller I'm working with. I wanted to make a little comparison of different workflows of in-the-box mixing and mixing on a physical mixing desk, mixing console, which is kind of every audio engineer will say, like experienced audio engineer I met is like, okay, what the fuck, you try to do in-the-box mixing, it's absolutely not reliable and stable and whatsoever. So most of the engineers are mixing this reliability, stability. And another thing is that you definitely have a different workflow in mixing with DAW mixes, depending on which DAW you use, but definitely suits to Pyramix by Merging, Sequoia by Magix, and even Pro Tools. It's just like a different workflow. Even if you have like dedicated hardware, okay, it makes it easier with the Avid S6 because it's a dedicated hardware console for mixing, but still it's a kind of different approach to the work. And you have often too many mouse and keyboard operations you have to do, which is absolutely annoying for live broadcasting because you don't want to touch anything else than your mixing desk or whatever is supposed to be your, let's say, tools you're mixing with live. So I just deep dive into explaining why I chose Pyramix Masscore system. It's like a special system by the Pyramix DAW, and why it is my desired workflow to work in this kind of environment. Pyramix is working on a Windows PC, and Pyramix Masscore is kind of a tool which saves DSP power by Windows, DSP cores, to have a dedicated recording machine and a mixing desk machine within one software, like within one DAW. It's operated by RTX 64. It's just a software which is like kind of reserving those cores, those DSP cores by Windows. And as I already told, like you have this kind of like separation of dedicated DSP and VST processing, which is in the box, like effect processing. So it kind of allows you to have better stability and reliability than any other DAW, because you have this kind of thing that any processing is reserved by different cores. So no Windows, no Mac is touching anything when you just like change Windows or something. It's not touching, at least in a bigger circumstance, it's not touching the DSP core. To deep dive a little bit deeper, just to get the hang of it, we have a little bit like the Windows task toolbar, just like a little, you can see over there, okay, we have a Masscore is reserving some space, Pyramix is reserving some space, and within that tool, which is running from the startup at Windows. So now we go into the kind of in the driver part from Masscore, where you can say, okay, I just go and say, I reserve 14 cores of my physical 10 cores, but we have like this kind of hyperthreading, so it's 20 cores which are virtually there. I reserve 14 cores for my purposes on Windows, and 6 cores. Until now, it's only possible to have 6 cores dedicated or reserved to MassCore. Hopefully, in the future, it's going to be more. I'm not the coding tech guy, but would be great to be more powerful, maybe. And then you can say, okay, I just reserved those 6 cores or 3 physical cores to just be there for the recording process and for the VST processing. And this is kind of, for me and my kind of thinking, it's a decoupling of a tape machine and a mixer, which is kind of what we do in the physical world all the time. We have like the recording machine is like the door somewhere outboard, and the mixing console is standing somewhere in the middle, and they don't belong to each other. They have like different kind of processing going on because they are 2 different computers, which is happening over here in a way as well. You could compare it like that. So the next thing we're gonna do is look at the network, because the audio is processed through audio over network. Everything is going by Ravenna or AES 67. So it's not possible to transfer signals in another way yet. Maybe in the future there will be something. But at the moment you have this dedicated Ravenna network, and you have different latency settings for different kind of purposes or different kind of sample rates. There's like recommendations from the company who just like say, okay, with that sample rate you better go with that or with that latency. And really powerful about AES 67 is that you have this kind of interoperability between different devices. Let's say AES 67 can work with Ravenna, or Ravenna devices can work in AES 67 mode, and Dante devices can also sometimes work in AES 67, and other as well, depending on whatever they have, whatever they offer. So I could literally put together like a merging technology Soros with a direct out Prodigy, and I have like as many inputs as I want available by those physical ADDA converters. At the moment it's pretty limited working in the AES 67 mode, because you are, depending on which interface, you are limited to the sample rate of 84 kilohertz, which is for broadcasting absolutely fine. But if we do like a parallel recording of it, and we want to have like a high-end recording of, let's say, 69 or 192 or even DXD recordings, then you're not able to do that. And the routing process within this network is also kind of specific, because you have to do it all manually if you work in the AES 67 mode, because in the AES 67 mode with different kind of like companies, then it's kind of can get complicated. You have to be like a little bit into networking of audio system, of audio networks. So, but just to tease that, because it's too much deep dive. If we look into the routing matrix, I have like one example from the StageTech's Nexus system, which is placed at many different venues, and it's like the standard for one of the standards next to Lavo for recording and for live balancing or live broadcast balancing. And this is an example of Konzerthaus Berlin, where they have the new Avatus. It's a mixing console by StageTech, the most fancy new one with a lot of like touch displays, which makes workflow pretty fast actually. Not with all these annoying knobs you don't need, and not judging, but sometimes it gets on the nerves. And which is like pretty cool system. So I just compare these physical workflow, like, or this physical mixing desk workflow with the one I use internally. So with that kind of like routing over here, like the StageTech Avatus, we have all the different, we have like a classical audio matrix, like sources and destinations. And you can just like put any signal everywhere by these lovely green dots. And you say, okay, I just want to have my microphone called Tandem 1 on my input strip there, to just like building your mixer. You're just like building your mixing desk at the moment. So this is the work you have to do before you're starting every project. And this is kind of interesting because it's not far away from the DAW workflow later, but this comes later. So, as I said, we can patch and route everything, like physical mic preamps, AES outputs, outboard gear return whatsoever, or inputs, and any console channels, and whatever we want. It's shown on the left or on the right, whatever. You can literally do whatever mischief you want to do. If we go to the routing matrix in Pyramix, it's called Aneman. It's a dedicated app which is running on Windows as well, or you can open it via the DAW. You literally have kind of the same functions with a different kind of approach or different kind of looking. And we have like a kind of complex looking thing over here, which is pretty complex, and we have like three different network devices we see over here. We can see all our network devices which are connected to the network, and there we can say, okay, I just like zoom a little in so we can see what's going on in here. It's like the Horus, Anubis. It's like a pretty basic setup actually. Sometimes you even have like 2 or 3 Horuses or 2 or 3 other dedicated network interfaces within the network. And the grayed out one, the core audio, is this one, which is used as a backup system in live recordings. And on the very top, it's kind of powerful and really cool tool. You can check, it's like my Masco system, the dedicated 19-inch rack, which is like my computer and mixing desk in one thing at the same time. They're pretty highlighted on the top, as it is, as you see on the down there, it's a sample rate zone. You can literally put any network device in different sample rate zone, which it's kind of like a powerful tool. I haven't used much at the moment, but you could say like, okay, there could be another interface or whatsoever in the same network working in a different sample rate. That's how I got it, but I never tried it out. So don't blame on wrong information. But it's pretty much this, like what merging technologies is like, kind of like saying which is their possibilities. So we have like also shown our network, like our small dots over there, where we see, over here, where we see how many connections are going from which device to which device. And usually it's a connection between those as well. When I'm talking to the conductor via the talkback, which is also part of the Anubis controller, talk to the conductor, hey, okay, we're fine, we're sorted, or we maybe need to patch one more thing, or we need to patch one again, 20 bar 20 until 40 because something was not together and not in ensemble or something. So this is usually another connection you can make. So this is literally everything you can do with a network. Over here we have the network status, which is kind of showing you the correct input status or whatsoever of every device, and showing you if there's any problem in the network. Then you check over there and then see, okay, this could be a problem, this could be not a problem, which is really important. I earlier showed the VST control panel, which is showing some latencies, where I showed like we have latencies of 6 milliseconds, something like that, and we have the AES 67 latency. all our devices in the network have to have the same latency, else it's going to be dropouts. I mean, fair enough, it's just like usual audio via network issue. So it's the same everywhere. If it's Dante or if it's whatsoever, you have to have the same latency. And going on, we have over here the example of the Anubis monitor controller. It's the internal patch of different kind of approaches of different whatever you have. I'm just like it's just like in my studio over here we have like different loudspeaker setups where we can just like say, okay, we want to have this loudspeaker setup, we want to have like the DAW coming to that loudspeaker or DAW coming to that loudspeaker, and you can internally route them differently. It's just like very powerful and can also be pretty buggy sometimes, but yeah, it's just like how it is. The next thing, let's go over here. This actually all which is showing is the input and output, session sinks and session sources of the audio network. So it's kind of pretty much the same like we have on the StageTech Nexus console, console in the Nexus. And now we go to the actual comparison, which is kind of funny because if you look at that, it's powerful, it's cool, it's a nice old-fashioned Studer. It's really cool to have that and a lovely mixing desk. But I mean, I don't know. Do you want to carry that on a on-location recording? Is it possible? Or I mean, yeah, back in these times, like in the 90s or in the 80s, where like productions were like huge, and you had like 5 days for an opera sound check. Yo, cool. I mean, back in the 80s, that wasn't even like a mixing desk, like it wasn't possible. But let's say these times are over. So we go to the physical mixing console first. I don't know how your background is, but most of like experienced engineers have seen all those kind of stuff. It's just like metering bridge or metering by physical mixing console. As I said earlier, the Avatos by StageTech, powerful thing, really cool to handle, amazing stuff. We can have the channel strip, we can put names everywhere, we can have the panning directly on one view, we have the EQ, we have the bus routing on the bottom. We can just like see, okay, it's my workflow over here. I just like put my different kind of signals to a different kind of group to have them kind of in one thing packed together and then to easy mix them later. Typical workflow. And then we have another kind of thing where we just like in the classical music is for me like in the broadcasting, okay, I just want to have a mic pre-gain, maybe the digital gain if I'm not sure, okay, I just have a signal where I don't know how loud it's going to be. So I reduce it a little bit and maybe put a little gain on the digital gain so it doesn't exceed the maximum in the recording later. So when I just like record it parallel, you know, like kind of like a separated recording machine from the mixing desk over here, and I have my aux sense plus minus whatever whatever you want to use it. It's over here, the aux sense, and let's go to the virtual mixing desk now. I just compare to the DAW from merging. So this is our virtual mixing desk. Everything happening in the software. Kind of like overwhelming in first place, but pretty easy to understand. From the top to the bottom, we literally have like bus routing, aux sense, group sense, however you want to call them. It's like a different naming on different DAWs. We have our faders, effects. But the really sexy tool for in-the-box mixing is coming up in a minute. And as I said, on the very top our bus routing, which we have, if we connect it, if we compare it to the stage tag routing, it's over here. Literally, we have the same kind of features. So the next one is the aux group routing, so-called in Paramix, which is kind of cool, powerful, but also kind of a workaround workflow. I will tell you later. It's literally like I showed earlier, this one by stage tag. Actually, the aux down there, just if we look at this kind of direction, it's the same over here. So if we go then further, it's like a really complex and dedicated workflow now. Every engineer is doing it differently, but I'd like to really put signals on different kind of groups, music groups, whatever they called, and kind of only work by those groups. So literally on my mixing console, well, yeah, I just have these kind of groups I work with. Sometimes I use these faders, but mostly the groups because it's easier. It's one fader, and it's really cool to approach. So we have like I just combine all my kind of instruments, string instruments, wood instruments, brass, percussion in an opera production, the ramp microphones, the radio microphones, whatever you want to sum up there, and my auxes, over here, auxes, my two reverb machines in the box. And another kind of thing I have to use later is my pre-master fader. Coming back to that later. Which is literally the same workflow like on a physical mixing desk. So you could think, okay, wow, yeah, but still there's something missing. The actual fader control. Yeah, coming later to it. Now, which is really powerful tool, which is the only thing in that industry yet, unfortunately, on a virtual mixing desk, like in the mixer of the DAW, is the ability to control pre-gain or mid-gain by the interfaces we have in our network. So I don't know any like, if it's MADI, if it's even if it's let's say Dante networks, it's not possible to control the mic gain within the DAW. It's only controllable via mixing desk, like a physical mixing console. This was pretty cool done by Emerging Technologies to put their mic gain right into the mixer of the DAW, which is super powerful because I don't need to open another software to just control the gain. I can do everything from the same mixer, remotely actually. And which is so far, unfortunately, only working on merging stuff. The bad thing about it is you can only do it via mouse. That's not so cool. I'd like to have it on any DAW fader controller to just like put it somewhere and easy peasy change the value of the mic gain itself, the actual kind of preamp I'm using. Is it like mic? Is it like line input? Whatever I'm using. Is it like I wanted to control my my filters, my preamp filters? Not possible yet, unfortunately. Okay, we just like prepared all our kind of projects we're working with in the box, but we were not able until now to kind of mix it because I mean nobody wants to have like a mouse and use one fader only. I mean it's absolutely not realistic to do an opera production live on one mouse per fader. It's absolutely not possible. But there are obviously a lot of fader controls. And the one I choose is the AES S1. First of all, the best touch kind of feeling. You have the most realistic kind of feeling like you're sitting on the desk, like on a mixing desk, because faders are like really cool. And another great thing is that you have the opportunity to exceed the amounts of different consoles. So you can say, okay, I'm working with one fader control, which has 8 faders, or I work with 3 fader controls. Suddenly you have like 24 faders, and suddenly you're able to mix 24 faders at the same time, which is like powerful for just like coasts, which is not even comparable to a proper mixing desk with these kind of faders. And the other thing, we have a touchpad app. Like we can compare it. We literally can put like the fader controls with different knobs, plus the touchpad, and being able to switch and jump between layouts and whatsoever is possible between different kind of things with one touch or one knob or whatsoever. So maybe all of you already saw that, I don't know, but I just explain it, the U control for the AES S1. We over here have, it's just like on the example of one AES control, like usually when we do opera, we have sometimes 3, depending on what we need or not, 3 in a row, so we have usually like 24 of these kind of channels we can use. So I can say, whatever I have in my mixer, in the Pyramix DAW mixer, I put on a physical fader control on the AES S1 over here. So just like a typical workflow of preparing your mixing desk, your physical mixing desk, you do over here the same. So I'm always like a fan of group together, or the kind of groups or kind of main microphone system, spot microphones for the strings, spot microphones for the woodwind, spot for the brass and percussion, and extra spots for the ramp, and put them all on a different layer and assign them. And the important faders are always on the same spot. Like important faders on a live mix is literally what we need. One fader which is like feeding the limiter for me. I mean, after the limiter, I don't care. I'm talking about music mixing. If you do like a broadcast for everything, of course, it's a different talk. But only for music, I just need my fader, which is like feeding the limiter, which is my pre-limiter fader. So usually on a physical mixing desk, it would be pretty easy. You just like insert the limiter, and then you say, okay, post fader or pre-fader should be the effect. It's not that easy on Pyramix, unfortunately, but you can work around. And hopefully in the future it's gonna be different. So I always have the pre-limiter fader always on the very right to just be able to control everything. So when I switch layers, I always have the fader in my hand. Always, anything is going on, but I always have the pre-limiter fader. So it's just like a workflow I am approaching. So in this kind of example, we go further and we have different kind of banks now, which is like on every mixing desk, it's called different. On Stage Tech, it's called layers as well, I think. It's called when you switch different layers. Over here, we can easily say, okay, I want to have my layer for Decca, for main microphone system, for strings, you name it, on different layers, so I easily can switch between them, which is absolutely key, because sometimes when, I don't know, like when the producer says, okay, I want to hear the clarinet because it's such a beautiful cantabile solo, then I have to switch the woodwinds and say, okay, here's the clarinet for you, without taking the rest of the woodwinds so high that like the bassoon is kind of like blowing into my face. So this is kind of like the workflow we are approaching on this kind of like a mix control surface, like on the S1. And it's pretty, actually, the more S1s you have in a row, the more powerful it gets, because you just like you don't need to change layers that much because you literally have every fader in front of you. Of course, depending on the complexity of the project, of the opera, of whatever, but it's kind of pretty much the same like a physical mixing desk, let's say like that. And really important for me is like, which I learned back in my study times at UDK, having the rare mixer, like the original mixer, at one layer, to just like as a fallback, which is called all. It's the layer all for me, which is for my fallback if I don't find it. If I don't find anything, I just go back to the layer all, and okay, I see. Okay, here we go. It's like a fallback system for me in my workflow. Can be pretty helpful actually. If we go further, we have a really nice as I already said, like our layers. Now we're approaching the touchpad function, which is like placed behind the S1 mixer. We have like a lower key, I think it's lower key function or something. Lower key, control lower, whatsoever. We literally have a touchpad, like connected to our everything, also connected via network on our Avid S1. And there I easily can assign layouts and say, okay, I want to have on a specific button, I want to have a special layout or something. Let's say I want to have like over here the strings layout, I want to have the Decca layout. But the powerful thing about that is like you can almost put any command of the DAW you can do on these kind of buttons. So for me, it's during the live broadcast, it's cool to sometimes be able to zoom in into the waveform, or to zoom in into, or zoom out, or whatsoever, or just like see, open the mixer window, open the monitor control panel within the DAW to see, okay, what am I hearing at the moment? It's just easily possible with assigning those keys to these kind of buttons over here, which is like giving a huge variety of doing less with mouse and keyboard. I mean, over here it's like the example. You can say, okay, I just want to start record over here. I just want to stop. I want to play. I want to even jump with the cursor to left or to right. So it's just like even in the post processing, in the post production process, it's can kind of like help you out if you are open to this kind of workflow. And you can even like put shortcuts on there. You just like, or mouse shortcuts, macros you programmed. It's kind of like a powerful tool. And I really use it a lot during the broadcast actually, which helps a lot. Yeah, it's called the Avid Control app. And the Avid Control app itself looks like that later. We have, over here we have our metering system. You can kind of change the view, how it looks, if you want to see metering, if you want to see input status, if you want to see, I don't know, I usually use like the mixer, the metering because I'm used to it. It's just like this kind of habit. And over here we have like a typical example of what I prepared as lower control keys for our live broadcast over here. I have my fallback kind of layer. I have my Decca layer. Sometimes when the strings or the orchestra gets so fat and loud that I maybe reduce the Decca signal. Depends on which kind of music and depends on the orchestra as well. Sometimes you need it, sometimes not. And we have all the kind of different things. Over here the rest is like the harp, the percussion and the timpani. I have like all my group masters over here, which is like, as I already said earlier, I want to have my groups sometimes, or most of the times I only mix with my groups, and sometimes I do like detailed on the dedicated input strips. And I can easily say, as I mentioned earlier, open the mixer, close the mixer, and open and close the monitor control panel, which can be, quite helpful during the post-production, during the live performance process. Just to show it a little bit, it looks like that. If I switch layers. So this is just one AES 1. Just imagine like having like 3 in a row. You have like 8 more knobs, or 10 more knobs, I think. You can easily define and say, okay, you want to have this and this and this on the knob. And it can get complex and sophisticated really fast, but it's also really powerful, and for me, the way to go. Although it's kind of, you have to get used to it because it's not a physical mixing desk. If we go on, and I now focus a little bit on the mixing process itself and the metering in the box. We just have the typical layout or the typical view on the mixing console, on the fader control, and fader control S1. You can control faders. Hey, nice. If we go on and say, okay, but this S1 offers you slightly more opportunities. So we have the encoder and rotary knobs on the top over there. So we can also like easily control aux sends, panning, a lot of other effects controls, and other stuff. Effects controls is a little bit bumpy and not like it's pretty limited in Premix compared to, fair enough, to the original Pro Tools implementation from the S1. It's absolutely, you can't compare it, but still it's really powerful to do the basic stuff you can do or you need to do in a classical music broadcast, aux sends, panning, whatsoever. So it's usually this kind of stuff you control by them. Or you can even like switch banks, as I showed earlier. You have a dedicated knob to just jump from one end of the mixer to the other end of the mixer, which can, in my case, be helpful if I want to fast go to the groups or fast go to the very first main microphones, something like that, which is like also like a workflow thing you have to implement. But this is the kind of stuff. As I earlier explained, we have the lower control keys over here shown, and you can easily switch banks over here as well, the custom lower control. On the very right over here, you have the possibility to add as many banks as you want. So you can easily say, okay, I have any possibility I use, and go on level, it's called levels, I think. I go on level 8 or level 9. And on level 8, I have all my mixer layouts. On level 9, I have all my recording status layouts. On level 3, I have all my, I don't know, whatever macros I use. I have them on that lower control key. So it's kind of powerful. You have to get used to it. And as I saw earlier, this is kind of the thing we can do with the lower control keys. Most of it, unfortunately, no mic pre-gain. It's within the DAW, within the mixer, but you can't control it via S1 yet. Hopefully it comes. Let's see. Going to the next one. So we are actually able now to do broadcasts. So it could be, as I earlier said, we could already start now. Okay, but for broadcast, I'd like to have a proper metering. I need the input, need to check the input status. to see, okay, if any mix or any mic is in the over, if I'm like on my loudness range, my dedicated loudness range, on my desired loudness range, on my desired loudness, end term loudness whatsoever. So Pyramix offers like a great tool for that as well. Only for live, unfortunately, not for offline processing, but for live it opens you like a wide range of loudness metering. And this can also be controlled by lower control key, open just like my, to open my loudness metering. And on the different PC screen and my input metering, I can also like just open it with a small, just like fast tap on the touchpad. So I literally have everything I need to check for checking during live broadcasting. And the really cool thing about it, I mean, I can easily record a live mix within the DAW, just like via loopback. It's really cool. But also, I mean, compared to broadcasts, to any broadcast station, once you've done a mix, and like I've done some CD recordings also, a live mix, live concerts as a Tonmeister for broadcasting companies. In the end, when you had to do a remix, it was kind of, okay, where were we? How was the mix? Like 65 minutes before the end. How did like this sound and this sound? And suddenly you want to do a remix and you have to re-listen on the concert take, on the part where the mix didn't go well. And you have to jump back and then, okay, you kind of adjust the mix. This is not a thing anymore if you do like automation writing during the concert. You just like go back to whatever happened and you say, okay, I just like mix over it because I just already mixed it and there's no purpose in changing anything. Yeah, it's just like an insert of mixing. You could say it like that. So it's pretty easy to change and pretty easy to adjust it, which is super powerful. I mean, this is like, even if you have like 2 concerts or 3 concerts and you have different kind of mixes of the concerts, you don't take it seriously because, I mean, you just like add the multi-track of concert number 3 and put it into concert number 1 in your desired concert, and you say, okay, you just insert it, and then you can still keep the same automation. And if you like editing, like broadcasting editing, and on stereo tracks on the stereo live mix, then sometimes the live mix does sound absolutely different from concert number 3 to concert number 1, because I don't know, like the engineer was focusing on different things whatsoever. So there's absolutely no problem anymore to kind of readjust these kind of things. Because you're like able to edit in multi-track, which is already mixed. Pretty powerful for me. I don't know how you think of it. So this is one of the workflows. As I mentioned earlier, it's usually we take like 2 or 3 Avid as one in a row, but we were like on parallel productions there. So I said, okay, let's face the challenge and do an 8 fader mix for the opera. And we over here have our backup system. We have our input metering on different screens, our loudness metering, and our live picture from the control room of the video guys. All right, let's come to the conclusion. We have several pros and cons when working in the box for live broadcasting, in classical or in acoustical music mixing. And one is, especially in my workflow, where I'm working with Pyramix, we have the big pro, which is, I think, no other DAW is capable of a stable broadcasting system that's achieved through MassCore system by Pyramix with the app RTX 64, which I described earlier. which is absolutely mind-blowing, and maybe a hint for other competitors to try to reserve some audio core for the DAW processing. So another big point is we have less to carry. We don't need a big mixing desk carrying around anywhere. And we have all the mixing desks within the software, within the DAW, which is absolutely game changer nowadays. Another pro is, okay, fair enough. We have the mix automation of the concert. We have it saved in our timeline, which is super cool because remixing makes it absolutely effortless. We just need to go back to the part where the mixing during the live broadcast didn't go very well. And we just like mix over it again and try again maybe. And then we have our fixed patched remix in that special part, which is absolutely great. Another thing which is a specialty in Pyramix is that we have the mic pre-gain control out of the DAW. So we can just like adjust the pre-gain of the microphones and everything within the DAW, which makes it seamless to switch between different windows, between different applications. So we have it all within one DAW. So let's go to the cons, which are smaller and some are bigger. But I think within the next years, these kind of things will get solved. And we have a big con, which is absolutely essential actually for live broadcasting. We are not able to, at least in my workflow, we are not able to do solo listening. So because of the bus structure in Pyramix, it's a tiny issue, but it's still an issue and it can be solved pretty easily, hopefully in the future. It is at the moment not possible to listening to solo signal without destroying the mix. So that should be changed within the nearer future. Another thing is that we are not able to place effects pre or post fader. We just can place the effects pre-fader, which for maybe a master limiter is not so good because I don't want to do gain riding after my limiter. I want to do it like before the limiter in the signal chain. So yeah, that's maybe a thing one can add or change as well in the future. There's no easy way to do stem recordings, which is for me essential sometimes to to record stems like groups of strings, woodwinds, brass, whatsoever, to record those in stereo or in Dolby tracks to make remixing later effortless and way more easy. So this is a thing which could be easily solved by adding a feature to the buses that you can internally record them, or add a loopback function or something, which is not possible at the moment. And yeah, fair enough. I mean, we do live in the box mixing. We still have a lot of keyboard and mouse actions necessary still, which is a pity. But I think in the future it will be solved through better communication between remote controllers and DAWs, because I think at the moment it's limited to the main functions like gain riding through faders and some tiny adjustments through aux sense, or maybe tiny little bit of effects kind of processing and changing with knobs and rotators. But for Pyramix in my workflow, it's still necessary to do a lot of mouse actions and keyboard actions. Let's take a small outlook because I'd like to emphasize the importance for me, for my business and my kind of work environment I do, is like the, let's say the outlook for the future of in-the-box mixing. It's like, for me, it's comparing the costs from a Stage Tech Avatos, Lavo, MC66 or whatsoever, like all these mixing, the Lavo desk, compared to what costs you have if you do in the box mixing, it's ridiculous. It's literally nothing. I mean, I mean, if you think about like a few $100,000 or euros for mixing desk by Stage Tech or Lavo, and or even just 100,000, and compared to inbox mixing, you just like saved like 75 or 80% of the money. So pretty much looking forward how it evolves. On location recordings, absolutely better to do it with in the box. The very last aspect for me is like, because I have a lot of experience in broadcasting companies lately, they try to save money everywhere where it's possible, and I think it's going to be like a pretty interesting solution and efficient for broadcasting companies, maybe to start in smaller complexity of projects, but I think it will turn out that like there's no way around in the box mixing also for broadcasting companies, because putting like a big truck of which is literally a rolling studio to every smallest location, absolutely not realistic anymore, because they have to save money, which is fair enough. But So if you have any questions, reach out to me via mail, via my website, philippreif.com. Check me out on Instagram, Tonmeister Reif, and also on TikTok. And soon you will hear from our Tonmeister Collective more. Thank you very much.